It's very standard where I'm at right now, but the trolley, they get me through some tough times.
I was gonna say my bag is almost empty over here. DDK is talking about play-by-play. I'm just munching, enjoying the games. You guys could be munching on your own trolleys, and in fact, you get munched on by some of the pros, or munch on them yourselves. Get involved with the NA tournament coming up this weekend. $10,000 is on the line, but right now, we turn our attention to the $1,000 match thanks to our friends at Intel. They are here every single week. A fantastic run of shows behind Buff Enjoyers and Abrahams matching up in the grand final. Now, this has happened, I believe, 10 times during our 10 weeks. This is number 10. Buff Enjoyers seem to be growing their lead. DDK, is that your read on this matchup?
That is what the numbers say. If you're a person that respects and believes in numbers, then you would be inclined to agree that Buff Enjoyers have the edge. Do you believe in numbers, Pocket? Do you think they were invented or discovered?
I think they were probably invented by aliens, then gifted to the human beings. What do you think, ZP?
Honestly, I was going to go with discovered, but I'm all in on the aliens. I love myself a good conspiracy theories.
We didn't discover shit. That was implanted into our brains.
I'll go one step further, though. What if the aliens were actually humans? Just like humans that enjoy watching us on Earth, like do whatever we're doing as they sit in their super space mansions. Those are the real aliens.
Was the probing consensual? We'll talk about that later. For now, we got to dive into the Buff Enjoyers versus the Abrahams, ladies and gentlemen. This is your EU matchup with $1,000 on the line. Let's meet our teams. DDK, talk to me about the squad that just won our challenger matchup. The Abrahams rolled over Lotos, ABL, Saint, Tass, Jamside, we're all in the discussion for MVP. ABL ended up winning it with the Calico with no big faces in the game. I expect a frontline. Is he still your player to watch?
I think so. I think Jamside, you got to target the man. You can't allow him to play in Furnace. It will go badly for you. You don't want to allow it. But if you guys are not familiar with these two teams, if this is your first night shift, all you need to know is that each of these players, they're good. They are great. Are they the best? Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. How about that?
I like that. That's very good. Together, Saf, Jamside. Who's got the best odds of winning MVP in your eyes, ZP?
As I take a look at it here, I think we're kind of due for Together MVP at some point. The question is, though, is Together going to be able to play Shiv, where one of the interesting things when you look at the drafts between Abrahams and Buff Enjoyers is that Buff Enjoyers, I think part of their recent success is that they're really good about denying Abrahams some of their comfort picks, and part of that is making sure that they don't get Shiv under ideal circumstances, and part of that is the fact that you don't get a Kelvin anymore. Like, the idea of getting a Shiv Kelvin lane just isn't a thing because Kelvin gets permabanned regardless of who is playing, and I don't think Buff Enjoyers is going to change up that aspect of their success here tonight.
Let's take a look at their competition for the Abrahams. They go by the name of Buff Enjoyers. You might have seen them as Virtus Pro, and everyone is begging for the player on the far right, aka Zergy, to cosplay as Mina. But let's talk about it. Is he still the hard carry? Is the trackball wizard your player to watch, DDK? If not, who do you have eyes on?
I mean, actually, Zergy has actually come into his own a little bit more by kind of changing his role, by being on Mina a lot more. You know, we're seeing a lot less Seven. We're seeing less of that kind of pacing to the game, and he's actually looked pretty good on it. So we'll keep my eye out for Zergy or Mina in this matchup. It's definitely something that he'll be pretty strong on. I think, you know, Hoot's an interesting one because something that we have seen is that, you know, Hoot can play pretty much everything, and he is a pretty nasty Grey Talon. And Grey Talon's kind of been falling off, so I'm kind of curious if we'll see that as a hit today, ZP.
If we do see the GT, I think it's going to be later in the draft. I don't think anything is going to change from the prowl that we've been seeing of get things like Infernus, Mina, and Pocket early. Those three seemingly you're very top with a smattering of Doorman and Calico on top. I think where these drafts get a little bit interesting is when you get to the back end and you start wondering, okay, do you play something like a Wraith or a Page or Yamato or even a Geist, for example? I think Geist also has a reasonable chance of showing up here today. So I think the beginning of the draft is going to be pretty straightforward between both teams, but the differentiation will happen on the back end side.
I like that my camera just auto jumps around. I was going through the notes here. Hard carries in the past. Holistic, Zergy, Obikim won an MVP from us in the past. So looking at their lineup, Listic gets to a victor or not? is that his most dangerous character in the current meta, ZP? What do I want to avoid? Because Listic's been the guy who can play it all.
All data indicates, both Listic's stream, his gameplay history, and also anything you get from scrims, is that Listic has become just the Victor Whisperer, and it actually may just be a permaban coming in from Abrahams deciding, no, we don't want you to play Victor, because I don't think Abrahams themselves necessarily wants to do a bunch of Victoring themselves, but if they leave it on the table, I think buff enjoyers may take Victor every single time. So yeah, I think Victor, something Listic very much wants to play, but I don't think Listic will necessarily get the chance to play it depending on how the picks and bans go.
It's about 60 seconds to get through these first two bans, so take that minute to go find out, do you have Amazon Prime? If so, please use that Prime subscription on the show. $0 to Amazon, all the money to our production crew, and Infernus Jamside is getting targeted out of the gates, DDK. Or is that against himself? What's happening here? I'm confused. Why get rid of an Infernus?
So they just don't. So they just don't want. They know that Infernus isn't going to be priority number one, but they want to prevent buff enjoyers from being able to have it, because they know buff enjoyers will probably steal it away from Jam's side, and it is such a strong carry pick at this point in time. But I feel like it makes sense. I mean, ZP for me, it's pretty correct to value Infernus that highly.
It is, but now, I mean, this sort of ban setup here, I thought they would have banned the Victor as first, and then you expect the Kelvin ban to come in, but now you either have to pick the Victor or you give it up in turn. Oh, there it is, on the pick it. They're just like, actually, we're going to be picking it, and, you know, who knows? It's either going to be probably Together or ABL on it, if I had to guess.
I was seeing some people in chat saying playing Vindicta. That's another interesting one. We actually started to see Vindicta coming back a little bit last week as well. That's something else we didn't talk about. So many changes week to week.
Celebrating. Absolutely. Pocket is a first pick. Good move, bad move, ZP. Last time it made it to round 2.
I mean, it's just been high consistent value for the teams that have been playing it, whether it be ABL on the Pocket or Hoot on the Pocket. Pocket just remains one of your biggest threats of getting a team fight to go in your favor. Also, the number one thing that I'll go to the observers be like, I want Pocket Cam to the point of just like, okay, what's your interest in Pocket right now, ZP? All you want to say is like, I need to see how many people get hit with Affliction. But Doorman comes in second. Service is on the rise.
Which is kind of crazy because I looked at the Pocket numbers. That was 7 wins to 2 losses. Doorman has a losing win rate here on Night Shift. So DDK, what are they trying to get out of this guy? It looks like in the most recent games, 3-2 for the Door Bro.
Yeah, I mean, Doorman's interesting because he was one of those heroes that when he came around, we all kind of assumed that he has such a high skill ceiling that it will take time for players and teams to figure out both how to integrate him, how to build him, and so on. And I think that is really, honestly, what we've been seeing. And Doorman has a lot of utility, a lot of good setup, a lot of good, burst damage, being able to take people out of a fight with the ult. All of these things are really important tools. And as I say all of that, we get the Calico and we get the Mina coming out for Abrahams.
Yeah, as I look at it here, now I kind of wonder what the back end of the draft is going to look like in terms of front end, stuff that's still outstanding here. I mean, maybe a Paradox would make sense for buff enjoyers. I would be shocked if Paradox got to mid-stage bans without being... Okay, it's not picked. BE, go with what's probably going to be the Obakim Haze. Surely, I would think in response here, Abrahams may end up banning the Paradox because buff enjoyers could still get it after mid-stage. But if buff enjoyers doesn't want to run at all, they would ban it here.
He's coming in. It is a bit of a EU special, isn't it? So, okay, Yamato gets banned. So I'm still going to say I like Yamato. I feel like it sounds the best.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I'm actually curious who's going to get the Paradox here, because somebody's going to get Paradox. Surely ZP, like somebody's going to get it. I wouldn't expect that Abrahams would they ban it? Yeah, they could ban it.
No? Okay, so
I don't want to help you.
By the way, the Abrams stocks have just gone so incredibly far down, and I did a little bit of digging as to why that'd be the case, and it's just been basically blamed on the rebuttal changes. You go rebuttal and close quarters, you take way less melee damage, and potentially just turn things around on either Billy or Abrams, which is why they've dropped a bit in pick priority. But as I say that, Abrams gets picked up anyways, so still valuable, just not quite as early in the draft.
Shiv is also still available, and there's no reason to think the Shiv stocks should be any lower than they were last week, I don't think. So I could see a Shiv being a feature on Abrahams here as well. Potentially, they already have Victor that does somewhat of a similar role, and also Calico is somewhat of a bruiser. But there is the paradox. We talked about how high priority that really should be. Viscous is also still on the table here, ZP as well.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean for BE, you look at hero pool wise, I think they still could have Demov on the Viscous. That makes sense hero pool. I think Shiv is probably unlikely for Abrahams. I'm not 100% sure who's playing what, but I feel like it would be together on the Victor, and it would be ABL on the Calico. So that means maybe you're not going to actually see the Shiv at this point.
I didn't even think about that. So together was going to be on the Victor. That's going to stop Listic from playing his Victor. So buff enjoyers, where do you put Listic is my question.
Got to be the Abrams, the one and only. I mean, they do have a little bit of versatility where they can not have Listic on Abrams, but you look at the past month of play, it's Listic on Abrams, the one and only, but hasn't been his chosen hero over the Victor in recent times.
And who is the doorman? Because that's who chat wants to watch according to YouTube. I just checked it out. There's been a lot of requests for doorman strats, doorman builds. Who is the doorman to watch, do you think, as Paige is going to make her way in? So we got doorman and Paige on the same lineup here for buff enjoyers in the EU final.
Who does Oberkin play? Is he going to play Hayes or is he going to play Paige?
Paige.
I think Obakim's going to be on the Haze. I think Paige is going to be Sherrick. Sherrick has been Mr. Phil for buff enjoyers, where buff enjoyers, every team it feels like has that one player. It's just like, you play the thing no one else wants to play, and for BE, it's Sherrick. And last week, Sherrick was the sacrificial Paige of, I'm going to die first in every team fight, but I used all my abilities, so I don't care. That was the Sherrick role.
Sinclair is going to be player number 12 as all will be locked in. We're about to jump into our EU finals. Chat, let's get your predictions on the board. Who are we feeling in this one? Are you going with the Abrahams with the upset this week after getting taken down, I believe, 5 maps in a row? It could be 6 in a row. I'll get that official from our team, but this is at least 5 in a row. They have been dominating the Abrahams lately. Is this the new meta, ZP, that things switch up?
I like the Abrahams draft more here. I also think that Abrahams is just kind of due to go through. I mean, I think Sinclair is like the one question mark, where Sinclair is still like ungodly powerful early, but does fall off a bit late. I don't know. Overall, though, I think the Victor may just be too good, and I like Abrahams here.
Sinclair may have the lamest attack. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the chat. We got buff enjoyers, Abrahams, ding, ding, ding. Round 10 between these squads. It's the night shift, TDK and ZP on the mic.
Yes, this will be really interesting. I think Sinclair is ZP, a hero that's been a little underlooked. I know you're talking about his power level, but it is a hero where I feel like you can build him in a lot of interesting ways. And given the synergies that could exist with the rest of the squad, I could see Sinclair being a really, really fun pickup, and also obviously being able to steal like the big ults is never not good.
Yeah, and I mean Sinclair also I feel like is a candidate for hero of, okay, maybe people just underrated him after some nerfs. It's like, by the way, the kid is still really good. I mean, Rabbit Hex, one of the best CCs in the entire game. But Dan, we're into the laning phase here, and okay, the Paige Abrams lane, that's interesting to me because that was something that was theorized for a while of just like using Paige to let Abrams go hyper aggressive in lane. And I really want to see like BE how they make this work.
Yeah, and it's been pretty common. I imagine we'll see it too, that with Paige you can basically get a double shield. What's the item called? It's escaping me right now, but the item they get. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can just double that up with your shield ability, and it's very hard to kill anyone. And I don't know if we'll see like the split shot or anything like that, but you can actually build Paige in such a way where she actually gets very respectable damage as well. Especially if you're able to get some of the lockdown, you get a charge into the stun, the Paige's stun, and suddenly like it gets kind of scary in the damage output territory. So yeah, super interested in that lane as well.
No, Paige, I think right now is quite strong. Her biggest sin is that she's not Kelvin as far as support stuff goes, because Kelvin is just, way too good as given by the permabans. But already things getting a little bit hot and heavy. You take a look at middle here, and Hayes a bit low, I believe, being played by Obakim. So the middle pressure coming in from the Victor Paradox surprisingly strong from Abraham so far.
Hoot Doorman, yes, of course. But it is interesting to some extent, ZP, just because Hoot does have a very good pocket, and pocket is such an important factor on the team. But there's something I think we learned about Hoot a while ago. If you compare Hoot to ABL, is I forget who described it now. Maybe you'll remember, but we had an exit interview with one of the players, and they said how Hoot and ABL, very different players. Hoot's kind of the carry that's thinking about the team always, and ABL is the carry that thinks about himself always. Was kind of how they were drawn in different lights.
I don't remember who said that, but that does seem pretty accurate. There was one meta, I'm trying to remember what ABL is playing, where the hero absolutely should not have had much farm, and ABL is just, yeah, I'm going to get farm. Charge, though, connects. Saint goes for the parry after, of course, not in time, and eats a pretty big HP tax off in the left lane, and Saf, the one playing the Victor, not together as we thought. Super low in lane, which, not surprising. Victor is a little bit better after buffs, but the laning phase in Victor can sometimes be a bit precarious, Dan.
Yeah, it really can be. It's very easy to misjudge fights against Victor. I'm really curious how some of these lanes are going to go, CP, because the Mina lane on the left side, I don't know if this is a good lane for Mina. I think the point you made previously about how Mina really needs to have a good start. Because Mina is like one of the strongest laners, but you kind of have to convert on that. Otherwise, as you said, it kind of feeds the famine a little bit. You can't really activate your gameplay and get your power spikes in at the relevant times. So this is interesting to me that's Jamside. Is he going to be able to find success in this lane?
It's going to be difficult because a lot of the times the target that Jamside's going to have to actually land love bites on is going to be a shielded Listic, which is not necessarily ideal. I mean, normally you get lane dominance as Mina because things are in line of sight, you get love bites, people have to play more defensively, but if you get a paid shield on you, you don't actually care if a love bites gets procced, especially if you have an opportunity to land a charge while the other side is going for it. So it's somewhat of a problematic lane for Jamside for sure.
And actually, now that I think about it, if you add a Spirit Shield in there early as well, those love bites are never really going to do much to you as Abrams. So, yeah, very interesting. I wonder if there's any lane swaps on the cards, but we'll see how it plays out. In the meantime, we're checking out mid here, but we do see the haze. It is indeed Obikim on that haze, and as you said, rightly, Sharik on that page. Just to confirm that now we can see the players' names.
I just imagine Lightbringer walking in and going, "Hey, Sharik, I got great news for you." What's that? You're playing Page. It's like, I miss the days when I was carry warden, man. Like, where did my life lead me to this? But Sharik also played Page really, really well last week, so it's all fun and games with ABL. Able to get onto Zergy as you take a look at what's going down in the right-hand side.
There you go, the fight for the bridge buffs here, and a little bit troublesome for Listic, able to use Seismic Slam to try to escape, but I don't know about this one. Ooh, that's very, I don't know what tech that is, but it almost worked out potentially. But Listic will fall indeed. But Listic, got the buff at least, so he died with the buff. So I suppose that's a small consolation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what sequence of events happened there, but that is a little bit ridiculous. Doesn't get Listic out of danger, but still swapping back over into mid. Right now, just seeing Buff Enjoyers a little bit on the back foot from the pressure from Victor and Paradox. Overall, though, not the worst start from Abrahams here so far here, Dan.
Totally. It's looking pretty even for both teams. You've got a slight edge on Guardian damage for Buff Enjoyers on the left lane, where that's the Abrams and Page lane. You can see right now Buff Enjoyers are receiving some Guardian damage here on this mid lane. This is where Victor is, and Saf's performance of Victor is going to be pretty critical. We've, as you said, have seen such an uptick of play on Victor, such a switch in priority of late. It's going to be fun to see what Saf can do with that early start.
Looking on the right-hand side, kind of a difficult lane for the Geist pocket to deal with in the sense that, the Mo is going to be relatively self-sustaining, and if you do get low, Calico is one of the heroes that can actually punish the both of them, so, more defensive lane for Pocket Geist than, perhaps you would usually expect, but, taking a look here, the Victor Paradox lane actually starting to wear down the middle Guardian a bit, seeing Haze Doorman pushed back, so Abraham's arguably getting a little bit more success in this lane than some may have thought coming in.
Yes, very good progress for a middle lane, and we've talked about it so much, how the middle lane is really the the most valuable lane to get of the early Guardians, typically speaking. There we go. Get some fight coming back from Hoot there, using the cart to put some pressure on Saf, on Victor. And Victor, it's so difficult to move around in these lanes. It's going to be able to maintain the forward position. This Guardian really seems like it is going to go down in the next minute or so. Ooh, big damage to the pursuit onto Hoot. And just look at this. It's so much damage output from Victor, just standing his ground with ease as Saf. And again, it feels like Buff and Joyers are in a really good spot at this point. Ooh, nice snipe there for some more chip damage.
Also, in terms of other lanes, Dimov and Zergy, both not the healthiest on the right-hand side. Together's paid a little bit of health tax too, but they're both in the range that ABL could just dive and take down either one of them. It's actually very, very scary on the right-hand side right now when you're that low versus Calico. But now, Saf gonna get the ult charge burned out, but you know, it's not quite a pick because guess what? You're at 34, or well past the 3400 stage, and Saf just says, all right, take my ult.
Okay, so just taking some stock here. It does seem like Jamsline's been able to hold his own in terms of that early lane, but just not really able to convert too much against the Listic Page. But as long as you can kind of go even, it's not the worst thing in the world. We do, of course, have all these Sinners coming up here now as we see Saf beating away at one. Obviously, priority going to Victor in this case on that Sinners. The shenanigans with the door. Coming on through from Hoot, trying to disrupt in mid. And at the same time, you know, the best progress, just looking at the map here for Buff Enjoyers, is that left lane. That's the Guardian that's the weakest here. And look, here is the pursuit coming on through ABL onto Dimov there on the pocket. Very hard to chase down the pocket, and it will not be successful here.
ABL is one of the only players, Dan, where I could look at that and wonder, is he about to like dive the walker for this pocket? Like, how bloodthirsty is ABL? And I truthfully did not have an answer. But overall game state, Abraham's lanes have looked phenomenal here thus far. BE down about 7k here already. Now the Listic looking for the first Guardian here. For Buff and Joy is going to get Nox Nostra to the face for the attempt. Ends up dodging out of the rallying charge. Guardian ends up going down, so the rotate from Buff and Joyers gets the Guardian down.
Big fight there as well. Oh, 500 souls collected by Listic off of the back of that kill. And suddenly, you know, that's going to definitely put more of a dent into the lead as we go down to 5k from what was it, like 9k very briefly ago before that Guardian went down. So some good recovery from Buff Enjoyers as we see the wall jump. And we'll see the Magician against the hulking Madman. That is Listic there with the charge. The melee is connected, and it's a fight over the buffs here at the 10-minute mark on this bridge, as we'll see Buff Enjoyers bring quite a few players to this, as will Abrahams, and that Urn is also up on this left side, so big fight over that one, looking for that control. ABL in with the ult there to pressure Listic away, charge in melee, and try to get the seismic slam on, but gets denied.
T-Mob's coming in, maybe about to drop an affliction. Looking for the opportunity for now, just raw chase down on the ABL. Plenty of HP to finish that one off. Still ult in reserve, but while this was going on, Dan, it was Saint that was able to just go in, grab the urn, give control of it to Abrahams, and Abrahams now control the urn's destiny as it moves over to the other side of the map.
Yeah, very sneaky indeed there from the Magician. And that lane control on the right side is not that bad for Buff Enjoyers. They've got the lane fairly pushed thanks to Hoot's efforts. But of course, you know, Saf's on the other end of that too. So it remains to be seen what happens to this Earners. There's a fight breaking out in mid. The swap comes on through that get pushed straight deep into a cluster there on the mid lane. And it's actually going to allow Abrahams to fall away.
Listic just getting the freebie there, gets swapped in and still on the exit. Pins 2, does enough HP damage to disincentivize the chase. But still, Urn in control by Abrahams. Now getting closer and closer to the turn-in. And now for BE, you kind of look at the game state here. Do they just trade mid-Guardian for Urn? That may be the case here, Dan, when you look at how they're positioned. 3 stacked in mid and only a doorman off near the Urn.
Yeah, some annoying pressure in mid there, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there's too much bother here for Abrahams, although the Doorman is going to try to make a quick work of this situation, be as annoying as possible. trying to delay the earn turn in. And now teammates are coming along here, so this delay has actually been good enough here from Hoot on the doorman as his teammates now start to look to deny this one into the Baroness Hotel, back into your own hotel. How do you like to stay? What is it on TripAdvisor? I don't know, but Hoot comes out fairly swiftly here to meet the rest of his team, and they're looking good here to get a turn in. It's absolute shenanigans here still across this earn deposit as the ult is triggered for Saf as he goes down there on the spot, and it's surely looking better now for Abrahams. They've got so many players in position here, ZP. Now we get the combo as well on the back of that to further secure this for Abrahams.
Did Listic just get away at 22 HP? Listic still getting chased down. ABL finishes it. Does not lose any opportunity to finish his plate. The Urn now going to be grabbed by Abrahams towards the very end. It has been a very long fight caused by magnificent delay from Hoot, but it's not quite enough in the end. Abrahams is able to consolidate, and at the end of it though, Dan, it's only a 5k difference between both teams.
Yeah, it's really stabilized since I think that moment where you were mentioning, I think it was even before the 9-minute mark, where it's like a 9k difference, which is kind of concerning, but it went back to a 5k difference, and it was in about a couple of minutes and it stayed there. So yeah, it's definitely looking like things are stabilizing a little bit here, and which is really fun. These two teams can often provide some of the closest matches that we get at Night Shift. And whilst all this has been going on, it's worth mentioning that this player on your screen, Jamside, the Mina, has actually been managing to farm up, which is really, of course, Mina's job at this stage of the game, to try to get ahead.
And we shift off into the middle, combo out onto the pocket. One of the few things that can lock down a pocket for a longer period of time. Quick parting gift from D-Mob says, I'm gonna get out here, heal, but have some frogs as I'm on the way out. But the thing that worries me a little bit for BE here is I don't love the BE late game by comparison. Saf is going to become a monster eventually. Same with ABL. And, you kind of look at here, do you expect BE to be on the same level? I mean, you have characters that are reasonable late, but nothing really on the same level as a late game victor. So I feel like, Dan, even though Buff and Jewelers is behind, there's actually pressure on them to not only turn this around quickly, but get ahead before we get in the turbo late game, because I don't love their comp if we get into 30 minutes and Abrahams is even or especially ahead.
Yeah, that's a great call out. It's going to be very challenging, but we'll hold that thought for the moment. We get the Guardian attempt coming in here. Became able to take that one down, and there's a quick visitor to the Baroness Hotel. And here we go. We get the stun times on the exit. That should be enough to finish off Saf. The ult is down, so it could be converted into a kill. As looks like Saf is able to maybe get out of there. Get some assistance from his teammates, and Who is barely escaping with his life.
It's kind of one of the downsides about Hotel Guest is that you have all this time to set up a, Jujutsu Kaisen level jumping, but also on the same note, the other team has plenty of time to get over there to rescue, and that was more of the latter coming in, and now the after effects still in play. Sherrick unable to get away from some of the later chase down. Abrahams getting another chunk ahead on the game, 10k here so far, as the next Urn is in progress, but arguably a little bit too far ahead here, Dan. The timing of the fight means that this has to go into enemy territory. It was just barely at the threshold.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, it might afford Buff Enjoyers some extra breathing room. I don't think the game is such that Abrahams would want to go for that, maybe threaten it to kind of manipulate the rotations of their opponents a little. And then maybe be able to exploit that positioning. That to me feels like the most likely thing. I can't see them trying to go for this. There is a lot of farm on the map at the moment. We did just get both bridge buffs as well that have been picked up. So I could see them trying to just position their opponents with this ZP more than go for the actual deposit.
Also in team fights, kind of worth noting here as we were looking at Obikim, we'll hold the phone. We're looking at Listic, who's just getting pounded off here in the middle lane and nearly goes down. Somehow able to get away. In fact, Together goes down for the attempt, so that opportunity shifting away. But I was just going to say is that Obikim is kind of on anti-Mina duty, going to the early slowing hex on the Haze, and clearly in the idea of, okay, if we jump on Jam side, how do we punish? And, well, shutting down Mina's 2 is a key part of that.
Indeed, so that Urn will be taken back to the base. The base. Don't know if I can speak English anymore. It's too difficult. But it's somewhat of a respite, I think, for both sides. Just some jungling going on here. But there's not that much jungle left at this point. So it feels like the skirmishing is about to begin once more here, and we are still at that 5k difference, CP. So still like managing to maintain that difference, but it's kind of like you said, right? I think you framed it really well. The late game for Buff Enjoy is not quite as nice as it is for Abrahams, which makes them quite reliant on a very good Affliction to open up these fights.
Zergy and the Geist, and Zergy being the one to get the most farm, kind of gives a little bit insight into how Buff Enjoyers want to play this, thinking, okay, you know, Geist is reasonable versus a Victor in the late game, which has to be part of the calculus, which, you know, in terms of frontline presence, the ability to swap, I mean, may not be the worst read, even though we haven't seen as much of Geist recently. So, you know, kind of look at the Zergy versus Saf dynamic is one that's interesting to me, but also gotta feel bad for Saint right now, whose entire duty is babysitting the urn.
True. It's not really fun. It's not really all that fun. The urn should have a conversation with you, because he kind of talks. He says some stuff. I feel like they should make it like, you know, they should put the chat GPT in the urn. So you can just have like full conversation.
Well, Tass gets sent to the Baroness, but may have his own escape. Looking at the minimap, does get clear. Saint, meanwhile, I feel like Saint hasn't really done a lot of movement out of that part of the map, where Saint will hold on to the urn for a while, drop it, do a creep camp. Has just been held prisoner by the urn, Dan, for the last 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing. Kind of depressing. There's a burden. A burden he didn't ask for. The one that he must carry. Seismic Slam from up high. And is there anything to be found here? There is the Affliction coming on through. That shielding has been triggered there for Listic as he stays in that front line. We do get a reposition now here for Buff Enjoyers. After all said and done. Okay, there we go. There's the Affliction. Observer's catching that one, so we get to see that health tick away for the moment. And that's going to send Buff Enjoyers back.
Yeah, I mean, hits 2, gets the ult out of Saf, and wait. Okay, get the ult out of Victor, and you decide we're going to go mid-boss. The timing here, though, is such that I think Abraham's going to be able to get on in, so hold the phone. We are ready for the contest. ABL, Gloom Bombs coming in from above. The commit is here. The Rejuve is coming on down, and we got a clone Doorman ult to set the stage here. Abraham's jumping on in, rallying charge. Gives a little bit of disruption. 2 Rejuves go the way of Buff Enjoyers, but will the rest of the fight be the same? Abraham's got 1 Rejuve. Saf diving over and in on the chase down now on the Victor. It is Pandemonium left, right, and center, and BE right now desperately trying to get away. Both Rejuve charges already gone, Dan.
Yeah, it was a great result to actually get that mid-boss down, though, and force this big old fight, and it's going to be Abraham's actually retreating somewhat together, and it's Buff Enjoyers that were somewhat on the pursuit, which I think, you know, after you let the dust settle on that one, I feel like that was actually such a great call for Buff Enjoyers, because now they don't have to worry about that mid-boss. They are able to get this this urn into, oh my goodness, the threshold there for that comeback urn. They must have been right on the cusp. I can't believe this is not a neutral urn.
No, it was the same urn as before. It was just...
Oh, right.
They literally... Sherrick was able to catch it just a moment before the reset. So it's the same urn as before, now rotated over, because if it was a fresh urn, it would have been even.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I forgot how to do numbers, but it looks like Abrahams are turning up to this one. They're not going to allow it to go for free, it seems, at least. How much will they commit, though? There is a good presence here from Buff Enjoys. And in fact, yeah, Abrahams will fall back and away. And this is going to have the difference close to 1k, which is the closest we've been for quite some time, or 2k, I should say, overall. So pretty tight game. But again, we can't escape that that prognosis that you came up with previously, ZP, of just the scaling is better for Abrahams.
Yeah, and the late game is where things, I think, get a little problematic. I mean, I guess in the end, it kind of depends on how well is the Geist going to perform as your main farm carrier versus the Victor. But another combo coming on out into the rescue beam thereafter, as together is just gonna leave. Gonna burrow into the ground and skip away, Dan.
Yeah, constantly threatening, very threatening Abrahams, but it does feel like this is a good moment in the game for Buff Enjoys to try to find something, create something, and in terms of the tools that they have to do that, you know, they don't really have, you know, super clear initiation tools, but okay, well, that is one of them, to be fair. But this is, as you say, it does buy time for the other team to bring players into this one to defend the player that gets taken away to the hotel, and is just a dash straight through the basement there. Who doing everything he can to get out of this one. He is getting bursted down and absolutely mugged by multiple players from Abrahams, and he will fall.
Then his neck broke. Doorman's neck just broke off the swap. I did not realize how devastating the swaps have become in the interim. But one of the interesting things to me is that I wonder if part of the resurgence for Sinclair here is just cloning Doormantle. I think it's one of the more powerful clones that you can use for audience participation, and again, helped sort of tilt the scales there on the counter initiation off the Doormantle.
It's a great point, because especially if you're not putting points or prioritizing points into the Sinclair's ult, you're still going to get a lot of value from the Doorman ult. It's not going to be like you're picking something that where you need a lot of spirit or gun damage or whatever it might be, and you really need to max it up because it's maybe not going super well with your builds. It just disables an opponent and sets up your team. So I totally agree. That's a good call out. We got another skirmish here on the right side.
And again, it's going to start out with a combo. Listic was going for the teleporter, instead gets the old Mo teleport back to base. A little bit more brutal and definitely more profitable for the opposing team. So clean pickoff for Abrahams. No mid-boss to be up soon to go along with it, but you do get extra territory control when you have the 6v5.
Oh, catching the swap right before hitting the jump pad. Oh, makes it onto the jump pad, but surely doesn't survive this one. Trying desperately there. The warpstone comes in handy. Nice little dash there. The movement up onto another jump pad, and looks like he might be safe. Yeah, actually makes it back to base. I cannot believe it.
That's ridiculous. How is he doing those moves and that footwear on top of it while also looking graceful? That's absurd, but also just Hoot things. I think Hoot, even by the standards of professional Deadlock players, tends to be a little bit more evasive than the norm. Then just add that one into the highlight reel.
Yeah, great movement. And that's actually something that more and more we're seeing players really perfecting. The wall jump did get nerfed a little bit in the recent patch, which I was quite sad about, but still, you can do so much with it, especially combined with the mantle slides as well. So lots of really cool things that are possible, and that definitely makes for some cinematic moments and daring escapes as we see the Buff and Joyous team here, mostly on their own side of the map here, cleaning up the creeps. It kind of feels like they lost a lot of presence despite managing to put on a lot of pressure in recent moments, but still, DP, they've done good to hold on, but we still need to see something more. We need to see like a team fight victory. I don't think we've seen that.
Those single pickoffs really hurt your tempo. It was actually Listic who was commenting in Discord a while back saying, with changes that have been made, the respawns over time, there's no such thing as a good death in Deadlock in terms of pickoffs. And the way it was before, like, the ideas of like go in and, dive for objective. I think he noted like, okay, maybe an exception for a walker dive, but if you lose something like your Abrams for 40 seconds, it does impact what your lane status is going to be, what the jungle ends up being. And speaking of pickoffs here, Abraham's looking for one more. The combo this time out on the Sherrick, and has a brutal pickoff that it's not quite in the mid-boss range, but it is answered with the pick on the test, so 1 for 1.
Yeah, pretty huge as both teams collide here on the left side. And I think right now we're going to have Buff and Joyous momentarily outnumbering Abrahams as the pressure comes in. E-shift there for Saf to stay alive just slightly longer there on Victor. Trying to reposition in this fight, trying to back away with the team here. This is a great moment for Buff and Joyous to put the pressure on, get the kills, get a team fight going their way, chasing up onto the roof, forcing the reincarnation here for Saf. Cart goes on through, but it's an escape attempt now from Saf. He's pretty tanky, and he is going to be getting out of there. And after all said and done, it just remains that 1 for 1. Sharik and Taz down, unbelievably, ZP.
Also, killing Saf is going to be an exercise in misery soon. If you looked at the items he has queued up, he has Transcendent cooldown coming up next with the E-shift. So it's just going to be this death cycle of E-shift into Jumpstart, into, oh, you killed me, I come back up, into E-shift, into Jumpstart. It's kind of a doom cycle, but also, speaking of doom cycle, together, trying to burrow away. This time not going to be successful. 2 down from Abraham's. Res mid-boss comes up. That is singing the praises of Buff and Joyous here. But Hoot goes down, gets caught at the shop, and that may hurt some of the mid-boss plans here, Dan.
We'll have to see if there's a recovery, because this is still a good moment here for Buffinjoys to take full advantage with that mid boss up. They just have to execute off this fight, and they get 2 players. Sane and ABL falling for Abrahams, and this has to be a guaranteed mid boss surely now for Buffinjoys off the back of this one, as they will go back to the shop. You gotta do your shopping, gotta purchase something here or there, but into the mid boss next, and that is gonna be the rejuice falling for Buffinjoys, and this could be the moment where they finally come out ahead in this game.
The interesting thing is that in overall parallel between the teams, they'll get mid boss, which is huge for the next team fight, but the actual level of fighting is going to be pretty even. It's still a very considerable advantage to have Rejuve, and the reality is that Abraham is probably going to lose at least 2 walkers, if not all of them, by the end of it. But it's a little bit different than the normal setup where you get mid boss and you're up 20k and now you can end the game. Abraham's is going to have options to defend this.
And can they catch Mina? You can see Jamside trying to be sneaky with it, almost taking down that walker on the left side, but just barely not able to get it. But the troopers actually finish it off instead. So that is actually, that sucks actually for Buffinjoys, but we'll see if they can make good off the back of this rejuve. Getting the urn conversion is a good start, but there's definitely a lot more to be done, because there's still 3 walkers up. Which one do they choose here? It looks like they could start off with the right side with the creep wave, as that's pretty deep.
Well, why don't you start off with a combo here? You punish some of the addiction coming on in. Now, take a look at Zergy. Under assault from all ends. Swap already used. Silence Wave, though, gonna buy a little bit of time. Saf ends up getting burned down. The reincarnation, or the resurrection, being used. And meanwhile, you take a look at Listic. Listic's still a little bit under pressure, but gets with his team, able to get away. And when it's all said and done here, Dan, it's a cooldown out of Saf, but otherwise, Abraham's still in an okay spot.
It's honestly crazy that the guys that Zergy survived that. He was getting battered by like, what, 3 or 4 players, and managed with the swap to win the warp stone to be able to actually escape that. Really impressive. And that makes a big difference in keeping the rejuve charge up, and just being a constant nuisance here to Abrahams, who don't have any presence on the map by nature of this rejuve situation. And now we're getting just a bit of cleanup on some of these creeps, and they got to make a move here soon with these rejuve buffs.
One interesting note, I don't know if they recognize it in this sort of situation, but if they got the first pick off on the Hoot wouldn't come back, because he was dead when Rejuve came out. But instead, Hotel Guest coming out. Mid-air ABL, though, ABL has pretty good options to get away, and should be able to get away here, but does feel the need to use Return the Shadow immediately on exit. Still, another walker down. That's a 2 walker tax coming out against Abrahams because of losing mid-boss when they did. And also, overall, you know, around a 20k swing where Buffinjoys was 10k down, Dan now up around 10k. So the power of getting mid-boss after a few picks.
Oh, combo into the Abrams. This could be a huge way to open up this fight. To get this very low as well there on the Mo and Krill. So right now, you know, Buffinjoys still with the rejuve advantage, look to clean up this fight completely. They got walkers to deal with afterwards as well. Taz goes down. Big damage out from Zergy as they push everyone from Abrahams all the way back there, inclusive of Saf. And this opens up this walker for the taking. A big moment for Buffinjoys as they are 20k plus ahead now on the scoreboard. Not something I thought was going to happen in this game.
I mean, it all just stems from the mid-boss. Get picked off at the wrong time and things progressively get worse. You had 3 walkers up from Abrahams before mid-boss. Now they have 0. And Buffinjoys reaping all the souls as a result and not stopping there. 3 still down from Abrahams. The shrines are now on the menu, potentially even first stage patron. And yeah, Saf is up. Saf has ult, but Victor is good. There's a limit to the miracles you can do here when you are playing a 3 versus 6.
This is actually quite a crazy turn of events as the base is getting absolutely pillaged by Buffinjoys. They are going to be continuing that pillaging. They still got 2 rejuves left after all of these fights, and they might just continue this one till ends, EP.
That's a little bit risky. Rejuve is nearly gone, but yeah, they're going in for it. They are all hitting the patron. They don't want to deal with the late game victor. Buffinjoys, they take the gamble. It's down the half. They just need a little bit more. Abraham's unable to clear them out, and that's BE making the most and then some out of their 1 mid-boss that they get. Normally, I'd say, hey, Puckett, what do you think about this?
Page and
Puckett. We just need a
Puckett.
moment of silence to think about what we just saw.
That shit was wild. I'm a big fan of the mid boss. Straight into the finisher. If they lost the final fight, was Abraham's coming back, or was this one already done?
Oh, I think if you lose the all in there for BE, if you make the call to all in and you don't actually get the patron, I think Abraham's wins 100%. But this was a little bit weird. Normally, BE would not go for the end in this situation. They would play the long game. But I think based on the comps, they didn't want to go to the long game.
Dan, did you just hawk two over there?
Is that what they call sneezes these days?
Oh, gotcha. That's what it was going on. We're gonna take a look at some of these highlights. Here's what I wrote down from the chat. Holy shit, Abrams got away. What is Listic doing? Holy shit, Doorman got away. Schmovement God. Holy shit, Door Gunman is busted. Are all those facts, ZP?
Generally, yeah. I mean, Hoot looked incredibly good, both on making Gun Doorman look good, where as people know, if you've done a lot of pubbing, oftentimes you get the gunman and you go, wow, he's not doing any damage. Not the case for Hoot, who not only has great escapes, but also pumps the damage at the same time. And we get another look at the, okay, so I see what happened there. The angle was weird. The swap came in, and off the swap, Listic was able to change direction. It just, it was blink and you miss it sort of moment on seeing the swap.
Sizing slam, swap, cancel tech. It's this was kind of crazy. I have to say, like, I think you highlighted this point about how important a death is at this level of play, and I think we really saw a big differences made there. Just with some of those escapes that Pocket was mentioning, that the chat and the community was like pointing out, those definitely were really important escapes that were found, because we saw how impactful just staying alive was, and we saw how many fights, how good these players are at surviving in really important moments. To keep that team in a spot where they can keep pressuring and keep that presence on the map.
Another question was, is this a support haze out of Obi Kim? Is this something you've seen in the past? Is this something new Buff Enjoyers is showing the chat?
They've gone to it in the past. We've seen multiple flavors of Obakim's haze, and yeah, I mean, I think clearly for Obakim, part of this here was equip yourself with the tools to, make a Mina think twice about where they go on the map. Slowing Hex, one of the more effective things at shutting people down. Not also just Mina. I keep mentioning the Mina as the key example, but also pretty important for putting a lid on Calico shenanigans. If you don't build something like Slowing Hex, if you don't have someone focused on CC with silences and that sort of deal, you can just give up way too much freedom to Calico and Mina. So you have to shut it down with your item build, or face the consequences otherwise.
DDK, I love to hate characters that don't get dubs. Paige was on that list last week. She is now in the winner's circle again. Is she evolving, or have people just figured out how to build her?
I mean, I think Paige definitely has a pretty great application at this level of play. I think ZP was talking about it. Because there's so many ways that Paige can help you to survive or win a lane. Just from the early game and going into the mid-late game, she becomes like pretty strong in terms of setup, and especially if you look at the combo between Paige's stun, and in addition to Hoot, who was tooled up to initiate, to try to get on top of people, get them in the Baroness Hotel. They come out into a stun, into the cart. It's definitely a good combo.
As we take a look at some of the key numbers, it looks like you had a strong game out of Dimov running that pocket. Great performance from Zergy when it comes to just total souls. We always see him topping that number. And on the other side, Saf, a ton of healing, I should say, on the Victor. What did you take away from the builds? What do you take away from the numbers for everyone on their cell phone, ZP? What are the standouts here on this sheet?
I think you can see why Victor is incredibly highly valued. A lot of these fights, even when Abrahams was losing the fights, it felt like Buff Enjoyers had to get through the hurdle of, okay, take down life number 1 for Saf, deal with life number 2, even just the radius buff on Saf's ultimate, where Victor comes back up. You actually have to respect that, and there were still points where you saw BE eat the stun as Saf came back up to life. Victor is kind of a monster. I would take notes on the build Saf went with here and apply it to your own games, because frankly, I think for the rest of the series, whether it goes to 2 or 3, both teams are going to be first picking or first banning Victor. No
Shout out to everyone on YouTube. They already know ZP has been doing some incredible videos alongside Jason Kaplan. We have our build videos up and running. You guys can check those out, as well as every single interview with any pro we've ever talked to and every ounce of gameplay we've ever put out from the night shift. DDK, I have a feeling this is 2-0. The Abrahams are mentally shook after that loss. They thought they had that game, did they not?
So it's really interesting. So one thing I'll say is that, yes, it was really close and they had the edge, and it looked like on paper they should outscale their opponents. And just the mid-boss timing from Buff and Joy's, it was the absolute right move, the ballsy move at the right time. And it was pretty much on the nail's edge, the razor's edge as well, because they got only two of the 3 rejuve charges. It was contested. They lost 2 players and used those charges in that fight. So that was a really impactful team fight that they were able to build off of later into another good team fight. So yeah, super on edge for that one. But I don't think Abrahams are going to be out or down or out for the count. But one thing I wanted to make a note of, we didn't talk about ZP, is that there were 4 warp stones bought by Buff and Joy's, and I feel like that helped a lot in them not dying.
Yeah, Warp Stone, I was kind of noticing that too. It's like, everyone seems to have a Warp Stone in this game, and it's always like on your radar for, is an item too strong? We've been seeing with Spirit Shielding. We saw previously with Veil Walker, which ends up getting hit. If everyone starts buying Warp Stone, you start wondering, oh, is it too good? I mean, Warp Stone is kind of a ridiculous item, especially for the heroes it goes well on. So I think it may have been more just the hero comp and having heroes that synergize well with Warp Stone rather than a new renaissance for everyone getting Warp Stone no matter what.
If our players are ready, I say we jump right into this next game. No break needed, but if the players need to do what EU players tend to do between games, we're going to a break. Solomon, how we feeling? I can't. We're still waiting for the drafts. We're just hanging out. All right, ZP, DDK, while we're waiting, we should remind everybody that Intel has been a fantastic partner. They've been here over the last 8 weeks, and since then we have given out $8,000 to NA, $8,000 to EU. The prize money in Deadlock is going up, and we are taking it up another notch with our friends at Trolley. If you haven't heard enough about it, here is the message that you guys should be sharing on Twitter. Deadlock has an open tournament. You can sign up right now, and North America has the pressure to get into it first because ZP, their tournaments this weekend, $10,000 are handed out on October 19th.
That's right. All the action starts on Friday with the qualifier day into our broadcast days on Saturday and Sunday. The biggest tournament ever in North America Deadlock. It's all happening this weekend. And again, signups do close tonight at midnight or 11:59 Eastern. So 1 minute before midnight is when signups close because we got to give people their matchups and everything for tomorrow because the first match day is on Friday. So consider yourself warned. We dropped the warning in our Discord. We dropped it basically everywhere we could. But yep, get your signups in or forever hold your peace.
Shout out to our new friends over on youtube.com/Deadlock Night Shift with an @ symbol in the front, of course. I saw someone saying, holy shit, there's competition for Deadlock already. To be honest, there's not a ton of teams. So now is the time to get in. If you and the bros have been running ranked, you feel like you could compete with some of the best at the top of the game, well, you can get in for free, the entry, thanks to Trolley, opportunity to play them on the big stage. ZP and DDK, I haven't even told my family that I'm working this weekend. Do you know what time we're live for Saturday and Sunday, ZP?
Yeah, we are kicking things off at 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday and 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. It's going to be a lot of matches to be broadcast. On our broadcast, it's going to be 1 BO1 and then 3 BO3s on Saturday. And then Sunday will be just 3 BO3s as we get into the playoff bracket. Either way, it is going to be a ton of Deadlock, all within the North American region. And when you think, man, that was pretty cool, well, guess what? The week after, we're going to be going directly into EU, which has even more teams signed up. Just a fantastic 2-week stretch here in Deadlock.
DDK, do you know who JVX_ is?
No, I don't.
He says you effing suck, but he wasn't brave enough to type out the effing part. I'm going to ban him from the channel anyway. Get him out for life. Random bans is how I entertain myself while we wait on the players to draft. I'm told that is coming up as soon as we can. We will get that in front of your face. Takeaways from the last draft, DDK. Who's the most impactful hero that made it through?
That's an interesting one. I think that's up for debate. I want to say Victor, but it's hard to say Victor because he was on the losing team. But I think we talked a lot about that. But I still want to say Victor. I'm gonna say Victor. Is that the right answer? I don't know.
DDK, you agree? Or sorry, ZP, do you agree with DDK?
No, honestly, I think we should have went to there as like, Dan, do you agree with yourself? And then we just get this entire thing where Dan starts like disagreeing with us. Like, actually, Dan, you're wrong. But overall, I agree. I think Victor looks ridiculous at the moment. And I don't think there's any way around it, really, if you have first pick, because the problem is if you don't ban a Victor or a Kelvin, if you're first pick, you're guaranteed a Victor or a Kelvin. And in this case, BE, they have first pick and they ban Victor, which means Abraham's the only choice they have. The only winning choice is to ban Kelvin, or else it's a throw.
Oh boy. You guys keep chatting about the draft. I'm going to keep banning nerds. This is my favorite game. It's like whack-a-mole. They just keep coming, DDK. They make a new name. At least Prom on the way out.
I'm cool with people telling me that I suck, but I guess you guys got to worry about Pocket. You can say
wait.
But you got to worry about Pocket, man.
Abraham's
you don't attack my friends. Doorman. They don't want the gun doorman no more.
But Kelvin exists. Abraham's, what have you done? I get like who was scary, but surely Kelvin is scarier now at a bare minimum. Coming in here, one of your first two picks probably has to be a Shiv, or you're giving up a Kelvin Shiv lane. I guess you're okay with that if you're Abraham's. You like playing Shiv, but man, oh man, I don't love the start of the draft for Abraham's.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but obviously Abraham's they had such an issue with the doorman setups coming out from those crazy warpstone like super light speed setups off of that. They just didn't want to deal with it, I guess. So we'll see if that's going to pay off. They do get Infernus out of this as well, and they'll get the second pick. But yeah, do they pick the Shiv? I mean, Shiv is pretty highly prioritized right now, so it doesn't feel as good as or rather as bad as before. I think he's just frozen, or is he holding that?
I think he's holding it. Yeah, ZP. Oh, yeah. It's like when vapes first came out. He's trying to hold it as long as he can at the lunch table.
No, my OBS froze is what happened there. So I'm fixing
I don't believe you, ZP. That is your frozen face and you're a ventriloquist. We're all impressed by ZP face. Can we just get Dan's face on the big screen here, Solomon? I mean, let's pay the bill, shall we? Ban D's nuts bucket. I can't do that one. That was pretty good.
Okay, I'm back.
Chat is having fun. ZP is back. Pocket is in once again. Is Pocket gonna be as impactful as Demov was last game? You have a Kelvin Shiv for the buff enjoyers. I feel like you made some crucial mistakes here, Abrahams.
Get a Yamato.
Okay, I got stun locked a little bit by my camera freezing in more ways than one, but mentally going back on this, Abraham's, what the hell? You just gave up Kelvin Shiv lane. We've established you don't do that. That has already put them in a tough spot where, at a minimum, okay, you've got an Infernus Pocket. It's probably a kind of a rough game for Shiv as a result, or at least it would be if you didn't have a Kelvin backing him up.
But at least they secure like the Pocket. I mean, Infernus Pocket and Yamato are like some of the premium picks that you would want against the Kelvin, and so that tracks. That makes sense. They banned the Page as well, Doorman and Page. They banned the entire combo, which is actually hilarious. Okay, so that's interesting. If that was central to Buff Enjoyer's game plan, cool. They got to adapt, but they're adapting with the Kelvin ship. I totally agree with you, ZP. It's definitely bold, but hey, I love it.
I have a request from production. This is passed on by chat. Can we get the Frozen ZP officially as an emote? We're approaching 800 subs. If we hit 800, we should unlock a new emote. I feel like we should waste it on a ZP face. Chat, you guys agree? Let me know as we get back to the discussion about the Tobro, Yamato, the Conehead lady. DDK, why has she been banned or picked in the top 6 every time?
Sorry, who? I got unlocked as well.
The Conehead lady.
What did you get?
Yamato.
Yeah, she's just come back into favor. Obviously, a really good frontline brawler, someone that can chase down. And in this particular game, in particular, I think it's really important because up against Kelvin, if you get domed, you can pop the shadow transformation. You can kind of survive and tank through it, and so you don't get as wrecked. And it's a similar prospect with Pocket as well. It's harder to capture him and trap him because he has a variety of ways to kind of waste time or get out. So So definitely, a good way to potentially deal with that. But, Mina's coming in as well here, ZP. And, Mina did work out pretty well has worked out well for teams in general of late. And definitely denying that out for Zergy as well.
Yeah, I mean, the early game for Abrahams is actually looking reasonably fearsome here. I mean, obviously one lane is going to be quite in pain dealing with Kelvin Shiv, but I'm curious what the back end is going to look like here. I think the fact that you saw Paige get banned, I don't know why that would actually be a thing. I don't think there's any world where you'd run both Kelvin and Paige together. I get it. Paige was super, super effective at being a menace for the mid-boss fight that went against them, but on the same note, it's just, I don't think you need the Bandit when the other team had already picked Kelvin. They weren't going to pick both, but instead they grabbed the Haze at the very end. Again, I think that's just they want to play it. It's not so much a deny pick, because I also don't think Obikin was going to go Haze in this situation.
Play the Mo here, right? And then you give up the holiday to Buff Enjoyers. Oh, they go Bebop. Interesting.
That's saying it's 2, and the Abrahams have beefed this draft. Do we agree, ZP? You have been grinding the game this week. You have seen the current meta.
I like
chat wrong. Are they tripping?
No, I think this is pretty bad. This is pretty rough for Abrahams. I think anytime you give up Kelvin, you are asking for punishment. And giving up Kelvin and Shiv together, the onus is on you to somehow make it work on the other side. And realistically speaking, Abrahams is going to be hoping for Buff Enjoyers to screw up at some point. And the problem is that Buff Enjoyers doesn't usually screw up in a way that would let a Kelvin Shiv game go to the wayside. It's not impossible. Anything can happen, but to me, I think Abrahams is starting with one foot in the grave.
We gotta give a big shout out to the community. Go ahead, DDK.
The major issue for Abrahams I see, because I can see them try to play a pickoff game, but the pickoff game is almost entirely reliant on Bebop, because you don't necessarily want to team fight up close against a Kelvin, but there's so much utility available for Buff Enjoyers to tank stuff, to set up stuff, to just they have way more versatility. So I don't know, this seems kind of all in to me, GP.
We're going to find out in just a moment. In the meantime, quick shout out to the community. We have Tabby, Tibson, Bano, AJVX. We've got some new clips leaders with Lucas farming up ZP's frozen face. Fustav is in the building. Brian SV1, thank you for being here. We got some fresh primes out of Legend of the Greek. Cop it. And Reply Guy 9 is the new clipper with a ton of ZP faces. If you want your own ZP face, head on over to YouTube. You can simply scroll back. You could draw it. You could put it on your wall, blow it up like a fathead. Whatever you want to do with the art is your decision, but the game should be ready by now, DDK. I've been trying to fill, but I haven't seen the screen where it's logo versus logo. EU grand final matchup. Not going to a game 3, says the community, but you think it can. Give me a player to watch, DDK.
I don't know, man. Bebop. I feel like it comes down to the pick potential from Bebop, I think, to set up the team here at CP. I don't know. Honestly, I'm starting to run out of ideas for Abrahams. I don't know how to help them. I don't know what their win conditions are.
We haven't seen them without a paradox either. I feel like they've had a paradox the last 4 times.
I think win condition here is that if Abrahams does get out of the early game intact somehow, I don't think Shiv, even with a Kelvin bodyguard, is like ultra loving getting hit with both Pocket and Infernus at the same time. I think there's worlds in the neutral where the combination of the two actually make things kind of difficult. The problem is that I don't know if Buff Enjoyer is ever going to really fall behind, or Abrahams is going to get to a critical mass of farm when one of their lanes is just going to be getting run over by Shiv Kelvin. Also, you talk about classic lanes, you also got Abrams Vindicta. I mean, this is pulling me back to one of the old one-win bombshell matches where Buff Enjoyers, one of the worst times they ever looked in their VP days was against Abrahams, where they gave up Kelvin, Shiv, Abrams, Vindicta. And Abrahams forgot that lesson here somehow and is like, actually, we want to go up against Kelvin, Shiv, Abrams, Vindicta. So 2 of the lanes here are just going to be so miserable for Abrahams, but we'll see if they can fight out of it.
Just 2 of the 3 lanes are gonna suck. They'll totally be fine, Dad. I have faith. Asking the chat who thought who was gonna win. Can you guess the percentage, DDK, that went with the Abrahams? Who believes in a game 3? It was
no
12. 12% have faith. 88% are going with Buff Enjoyer ZP. Is Zergy the difference? Why is everyone feeling the BE way?
I mean, Zergi's just one of the most consistent players you could have in the carry role across the entire game, maybe the most consistent in the entire game, which defies explanation given the fact that he plays with a trackball. What I will say here, though, is that I'm putting 1,000 points, channel points, onto Abrahams, not because I think Abrahams will win, but I think the value proposition is pretty high. I mean, those are some really good odds.
Run down of the night shift. Buff Enjoyers, Abrahams. Can Buff Enjoyers finish it? Or are we going to a game 3? It's ZP on color for play-by-play. It's the great DDK, the guy from Quake, who then did Counter-Strike, then a bunch of other games. Now he's doing this game because he likes it better.
Is that accurate, Dan?
I don't know.
Is that the accurate DDK?
It's like children, you know, like, yeah, maybe one is your favorite, but you never would say that. And they're also both special and unique and incomparable. And so, you know.
Oh, we know which one has a bigger forehead, Dan. ZP or me. Let's get into this one before I get fired.
Well, Dan, look at the lanes. No real surprise. You got the Abrams Vindicta lane. I think the main surprise is that you put the Abrams Vindicta in middle. I thought it'd still maybe go to the side lane. And the most consistent lane in Deadlock, arguably the most fearsome lane in Deadlock, the Shiv Kelvin lane up against Yamato Pocket.
I'm still thinking about the draft. I'm still thinking about the draft. Because I feel like we have to trust in Abrahams a little bit that we're going to be able to see, because if you look at the last game, right, we saw a game where it was, I think at the end of the game, it was like 14 kills to 16 kills or something. Like it's a very low kill game, actually, if you think about how Deadlock games can often go. And so maybe, you know, we are seeing a developed way of playing at the top, because this is the top of the top. You're not going to find better Deadlock than these two teams right now in the world. And so, you know, maybe there's a way here that Abrahams are able to keep the kill score low in such a way that they're not going to get too far behind and they can start to like get into some of that scaling power, because that's definitely a place where they would do quite well, you know, with the Mina, the Yamato, and the Infernus. And also the Pocket. Like these are 4 heroes that can do some serious stuff late in the game.
Well, I don't know. I think back to the draft. I think the thing that lives rent free for me is that Hoot's Doorman did so much mental damage to Abrahams that Abrahams decided, screw it, give us the Kelvin and Shiv. We would rather deal with that than deal with Hoot on Doorman. So that, if you go by power scaling logic, that is the biggest feat possible for Hoot's Doorman, being arguably the best in the game, if it's going to cause that level of decision making from Abrahams.
Speaking of feet,
the other type of feat,
the blue feet. Yes. Okay, not gonna make it weird. I could, but I won't. Hope everyone at home appreciates that about me right now. Either way, in terms of looking at the balance of these lanes, anything stand out to you? Obviously, we've got the Shiv Kelvin, the Yamato Pocket. I mean, both of those are heroes that you do want to have a good lane. Both are good heroes for laning, but can they deal with the Shiv Kelvin? What are the prospects there, ZP? Because it feels like Shiv Kelvin's still top.
I mean, Shiv Kelvin is still really good. I think they just hope that the Pocket Yamato is going to be able to be at least neutral. I think the part that's a little interesting to me is the Bebop in left, just because Bebop is so commonly played in middle. But also, the pressure on Delistic here might have overstepped his bounds down to 150 HP. Still cannot underestimate the power of Amina in the mid game. So overall, Abraham's conducting themselves quite well in the middle here so far, not quite getting bullied by what at times has been a very powerful lane in Abrams Vindicta.
Now, it would be really interesting to see Abrahams win this map just for almost a precedent where Kelvin's given away and the Kelvin loses, because I don't think that's ever happened. I think if we run around the statistics, in the current meta, if you give away Kelvin, I think you lose 100% of the time, right?
In recent times, yes. I mean, Kelvin was losing a little bit more as you go into the past, but there's definitely a reason as to why he hit permaban status recently, is that teams just realized overwhelmingly in their scrim data that anytime they messed around and gave up Kelvin, it was ending poorly for them. And part of it, too, is just the lanes that you enable, too. But, oh, speaking of things getting enabled, the pressure on the Listic right now, Listic got to an HP hole and just gets raked down. First blood to Abrahams, and, you know, mid lane looking quite good, especially given the, you know, the lane setup it's up against.
Yeah, because Hayes doesn't really have too much of a presence. Maybe you can get some love bite secured off the Sleep Dagger, but other than that, two very squishy heroes. But into the Bebop Infernus lane here. This is, you know, really interesting. You know, in theory, if you get a hook landed, that's a lot of damage output that's going to be able to be, you know, stuck on that player. He gets an uppercut in addition to getting, you know, burned by the Infernus. So that's also a strong combo. But the Shiv Kelvin, speaking of strong combos, can't get much stronger than this one. And this is the lane that truly I'm very curious about. As we see, you know, Shiv dancing around. That's going to be Demov on the Shiv. Oberkim probably happy not to be playing Haze himself.
Yeah, Oberkim off the Haze jail, as it were. I mean, I'm thinking about once ults come in the fray, obviously Kelvin Dome mitigates a lot of what you're going to be dealing with, but okay, Noxostra just directly applied the Vindicta. No hesitation. Rips Hoot out of the sky. And this is quite good for Abraham. Or the fact that they're contesting middle this evenly, about to open it up, I mean, it can mess with other lanes, even the Shiv Kelvin lane, if you're able to start rotating people over to, you know, overload it.
Especially the Mina. Mina has like very powerful roam potential early in the game if you do get that good start. At this level of play, it seems very hard for the Mina to get such a start, but we're seeing it right here for Abrahams, who I think most will say, in fact, there was a 12%, you know, as far as you guys in the chat voted in terms of win rate there for Abrahams with this draft, but there we go. Shadow Transformation is one of the reasons why Yamato can be nice. You get that extra survivability, not too much survivability, it would seem, as now Pocket will get chased down. ABL looking to try to escape here, just trying to juke around, and looks like he'll be able to get out there with the nope. Okay, looks like Shiv was able to chase him down. Kind of went off screen for a moment there. The chase down is good, and Kelvin Shiv reigns supreme.
I mean, okay, Abrahams, they got the Guardian down, but they did so in a way that it's almost certainly going to cost them their Guardian here in turn. We'll see. A little bit of HP comes off the table as respawns come on in, but I don't, with how that lane was going, I don't know if they need the Suicide Dive it, but Assassinate in from Hoot. Revenge on the menu in multiple lanes here at the moment, Dan, but ABL does chase down Oberkim on the right-hand side.
This mid Guardian is quite weak for buff enjoyers, so that does present an opportunity at a second Guardian somewhat early into the game if we're able to see some more control here. 3 players will come towards this lane, maybe to finish this Guardian off. Hyper Beam is not online for Saint, which would be a very good way to secure that Guardian typically, but 3 players might just be enough here. Charge there to get out, and there we go. Guardian's gone down, and now this becomes interesting because we're in a spot where Mina Saf can start to rotate a little bit, try to steal some farm aggressively, take some farm of his own, and really try to cause some problems.
You really have to give credit to Abrahams for how this has started. The fact that the 2 lanes that on paper were the strongest from, you know, all our Deadlock knowledge, they've done well in. They got Guardian down first, both the Kelvin Shiv lane and the Abrams Vindicta lane. It's equalized now on the right-hand side, but only after getting a little bit of help from Sherrick. So
yeah, the
counter lane set up by Abrahams, honestly, had a lot of forethought put into it.
Ooh, Hyper Beam is online here as well. Are they gonna try to go for this? Okay, the creep wave, fresh creep wave comes in, and we do get a response from Buff Enjoyers potentially. We got on the other side of things, Listic on the Abrams is not too far off of a potential gank into the left lane, so caution is expressed by Abrahams. They fall back on left, and that is going to be a very smart thing indeed. So with that said, speaking of potential skirmishes, on the right side here, 4 players against just the Shiv Kelvin. This is the opportunity potentially for Abrahams to bully these guys.
Equal odds, some may say, but not so equal as BE is pretty quick on the rotate. It's turning into a uneven fight in favor of BE should it take place, but at this point, this is an invade in the Abrahams territory. They just grab their vaults, and it may start getting punished. It's a 3-man affliction in by ABL. We'll see what the collapse is looking like here. The vaults have been taken, and BE on the way out. We'll see if they lose anyone in the process.
Yeah, really good pressure there from Buff Enjoyers. Now the Paros will be coming up in just over a minute, in addition to that first urn, and that's when things will get particularly interesting here, as you would imagine that the urn and just generally ZP, the big objective secures are going to be well in advantage for Buff Enjoyers.
Look at where Hoot is right now. That Pooh is just sitting there on the terrain, somehow still alive, going past 3 members of Abrahams. It has lived. Hoot was so low there. What in the world? I can't believe Hoot lived.
Okay, well, we are going to get a very aggressive maneuver here from some of the Abrahams players looking to try to just do some damage into this cluster of Buff and Joy's teammates. A bit of a clumsy one, but there we go. Well, Mina's been pulled out of the sky. She's been captured by the Frozen Shelter. And Buff and Joy's 4K ahead now in terms of overall souls. And Buff and Joy's have that left side Guardian still up an advantage as well. So it's kind of looking like we had that good start, ZP, but Abraham's now starting to maybe feel a little bit of the pressure from Buff and Joy's instead.
I think it's miraculous how Abrahams was able to play the lane phase and do well in the lanes that on paper were quite difficult for them. I grab one of the buffs here as first urn is now rotating down. For Abrahams, now as you get into this end of the game here, Dan, this is where you're really looking to Saint. Where, by the way, it's really worth noting, it's Saint on the Bebop, not Taz. Normally, Taz is the Bebop player for Abrahams. We haven't really seen Saint with the amount of Bebop game time, but a lot of pressure is going to be on Saint to be the guy landing miracle hooks. Taz is capable of it, but we don't really know about Saint.
Yeah, and I love that fast slowing Hex as well on Saint after he gets a hook to try to confirm those kills. But here we go. We talked about these battles being carried across by Buff and Joyous here, looking to try to get an engage here. There goes that slowing Hex onto Shiv, and all the focus fire as well. Get rid of Shiv very quickly. That would be a great move there. Burst damage coming on through to do just that, and that's going to happen. Now Kelvin trying to get out of here. Flying Strike in pursuit as Obikim now is going to be stuck here in this position. You can't deny the shadow form, but there comes the Frozen Shelter in the nick of time, healing up absolutely everybody. The fight flipping completely out of control there from Abrahams, and together will fall, and it is Buff and Joyous that come away with somewhat of an edge there.
Dan, Dome is a good button, as it turns out.
No kidding.
Like, controversial opinion, Dome good. And I just wonder, as Together is sitting there watching Kelvin's HP goes up as he's stuck in the 1v3 Dome, wondering, guys, maybe taking trips to the Baroness was better than whatever's happening to me right now on Obikim's Kelvin.
Well, it's kind of interesting right now because still pretty close game like we saw in the first map. And we're seeing now just a complete spread of players from Abrahams across the map looking for some invade into you know, the creeping sinners taking players of Abrahams. But we'll see now the battle raging on again on this left side lane, and that is Jamside going down very early on, and it's an overwhelm here. Buff and Joyce just have way larger numbers because Abrahams, they're spread thin. They got two players pushing the right side here. They're looking to take down Listic on that Abrams. It's bound to happen.
The Abrams versus the Abrahams happens to everyone. As you see, ABL in the chase down. Gets rid of new. Kelvin security blanket, not enough to deal with at that time. However, Together, other side of the map, found and dispatched. And the problem that Abrahams is dealing with here is that I don't love their late game team fight, just going in Shiv in general. Ideally, you'd want Jamside to get ahead, but the pressure's been on there, but okay. Pick here, onto Listic, onto the right. Abrahams has to continue to be scrappy here, Dan, is kind of what it comes down to, and ideally find some way to turn this into an advantage.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. We do have the buffs coming up in a couple of minutes, and again, I just feel like these urn fights are really where Abrahams are going to struggle because of that really good button. The Kelvin Frozen Shelter is just so good in these team fight scenarios. You need to find ways to not have a just all-out team fight. You got to try to catch them and pick them as they're separated. That's really does seem like the best hope, as you're saying. So we'll see some pressure on the right side lane coming in from Abrahams there, and surely there'll be somewhat of a response. But okay, they pull off the lane.
Can you buy anything? Is there an item or anything you could do to counter the Kelvin Dome?
I mean, you can stack a bunch of silence waves and not let him dome in the first place. Technically, there was a night shift a while back where Abrahams got Kelvin Shiv, and between Mina and silence waves, Saint just wasn't able to drop down dome, but it's really hard to execute in practice, and the burden of skill is way more on the team trying to shut down the Kelvin than the team that's actually playing Kelvin. So it's why teams would rather just ban the Kelvin in most cases.
Yeah, very interesting game so far. Again, not all the kills like in the previous one. There's again a huge amount of players here for buff enjoyers, looking to press into deep into enemy territory of Abraham's. Abraham's got to be careful, and they should certainly be aware, CP, of this win condition of their opponent of finding these picks. And you've got ABL here looking to open things up on the pocket up high.
Affliction onto the Kelvin Shiv duo. However, going to be met with an insta charge by Listic. Got a cloak out in return. And once more together, stuck in the freezer. Second time last little bit, but this time has the hyper beam back up together. May be able to get away. Low HP and then some. Together has shaken the pressure. Listic, though, not leaving without a prize as Saint goes down.
I'll be back.
So it seems like, once again, buff enjoyers are able to deflect, and Demov surviving on such low HP. It is a slight edge, for buff enjoyers coming out of that battle. And each one of these battles is a problem, because now we're back into the objective. The urn is collected here by buff enjoyers, and the Kelvin Dome, it was utilized. So that is not going to be available in a team fight. That is something for Abrahams.
I think if you're BE, you slow play this urn, wait for your ult to come back up. I definitely don't think you try and force urn turn in while Kelvin is unavailable, but maybe you just look at the map and go, maybe we could just go. Right now, if you look at our data, they could just roll in, but the question is, how much do they fear Saint on the bebop? Does Saint have an angle? He does have an angle, grabs the Abrams before the urn turns in, and now here comes a contest from Abrahams.
Yeah, multiple levels to this fight too, so they're a little bit spread apart. But unfortunately for Saint, he's quite low at this point, but there goes a big charge coming on from Listic as the fight rages on here. And everybody from Buff Enjoys has had time now to collect themselves around that original position where the hook came from. And they're just going to shrug that attack off. But in the meantime, what a steal on the urn at least. But was it worth the death of Together? Oh, and potential mid-boss.
If you give up mid-boss, the answer is unequivocally no. And you look at the spread, Abrahams, they're not in a spot at all to easily get over in here. The number one person you want to be here in mid-boss is ABL, and ABL, well, we'll see. Things are taking a little bit longer here. Mid-boss is going down, and yeah, instead, they're not going for the contest at all. It's only TAS that's remotely in the area.
They go for the Walker here, and it remains to be seen, ZP, if they can escape this Walker with their lives. If they can kill the Walker, okay, so they kill the Walker, can they escape with their lives? And if they can, was it worth it? These are the questions now here for Abrahams as they try to escape. They're on the zip line, and they are making their way out of there without losing any players. So three rejuves for a Walker. Not the best trade, but it's at least a trade.
Those rejuves are going to be converted into walkers for BE, but overall, that was probably the best decision they had where they were on the map by the time that they were aware mid-boss was being taken, because ABL was just not going to get to middle in time, and I think contesting that without pocket, not a great idea. However, take a look here, is Jamside in a bit of trouble? I can't quite tell on the minimap. It does look like that is pressure on the Jamside, but for now, seems okay.
The farm is pretty good for Jamside. He's doing a good job. Saf also pretty good, both 20k. Only comparable player on the other team is Zergy with 23k. So, if they can find the right fights, they can certainly make it work. But that's a big part of the question here. And they're quite reliant upon is Saint getting a hook, and then they just burst down that player that gets hooked. That is very important here for the game loop for Abrahams.
Part of it with Rejuve, you think about how Rejuve has a big impact on the game. Rejuve just, it feels like it lasts forever. The amount of time you have to just take jungle on the entire map, get an urn, and then still do a push thereafter is ridiculous. When you think about, sometimes people wonder, is the mid-boss too powerful, should be toned down? Maybe, if anything, it shouldn't last this amount of time, because you just look at how BE is able to slowly morph the map to their will, and still have time here, Dan, to eventually have a really good push onto the walkers.
Yeah, and there is a challenge coming in here from Buff Enjoyers finally onto a Walker. Finally, it's happening. They've picked their moment to go, but they are actually fairly spread out. Lots of players here for Abrahams, looking to try to make good of this fight. Can they knock down any of these Rejuve buffs? And in fact, it's looking a little bit sketchy here, but ABL will go down, and that's going to be a good opening now for Abrahams to put, or rather Buffenjoys to push the issue around the dome now. Activated Shadow Transformation to try to have some sustainability to survive this dome. Lasts forever. Saf does go down on the Mina. It does seem like Together can escape on the Yamato, but having to burn a Shadow Transformation for that, it was not awesome, as they're going to lose the Walker here. They're having to fall back together, and it looks like Buffenjoys will convert, and they don't lose a single rejuve.
I just imagine Yamato this game wondering if she's been transported to Hokkaido with how cold her average temperature has been. Just every time we look at Together, Together is stuck in a freezer. It's a bit ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous, ZP, and it seems like, you know, even more ridiculously, it's going to be maybe another Walker that will go the way of Buffenjoys. If they decide to press this, the mid one is a little bit more disadvantageous. Positionally speaking, it's a bit easier to defend. So it looks like they're not going to go for that one. And it seems like both teams will be able to fan out, and it's going to be the Urn instead.
You know, Dan, I gotta say, also in trends in the game, we haven't really touched on it because it's not super flashy, but Zergy looking pretty fat right now. 27K. As Geist, or really any hero at this point, dealing with Zergy is not going to be easy. Zergy now can basically push any lane, and it's going to take a commitment of a minimum of 2 players to even make Zergy feel a threat when you're ahead of the game this much on Geist. Just really solid farming amidst all the chaos, and something that's going to make things difficult for Abrahams, even with the soul difference between the two teams being relatively even.
Absolutely, it's looking pretty interesting right now on the rooftops as the skirmish will begin around this urn. So much damage, Hyper Beam. Oh, it gets cancelled, I think. That sound just it started up, but it didn't continue. And the repositioning here for both sides is such a sketchy fight. This is the kind of fight, though, you want if you're Abrahams. Multiple levels, CP.
Well, ideally, if you get a pick, the Rejuve is now gone. Yes, you've given up the Urn, but take attacks the same. No, okay, Dome does its put people under the map thing, but no real ill effects for BE. Sometimes it can be disastrous, not so much this time. Together, though, getting to drop a Shadow Transformation without going into the freezer, gets a little bit of well-earned revenge onto the Shiv. Abrahams trying to turn this Hoot real low. Zergy low in turn, has a swap, lands the swap. Hoot, though, takes down Together at the end. Abrahams bleeding a bit more between the two. Zergy on the cleanup. 4 down from Abrahams, and BE now with a clear lead.
And we're seeing the reason why Zergy gets that priority on this Geist here. Absolutely ridiculous survivability and damage at the same time. But in comes ABL on the pocket. Big burst damage, but he's going to get bursted all the way back as well. As in comes, of course, the cat, Sharik, there. Able to finish him off, and it's an attempt on an escape here, but it looks pretty desperate coming in from Taz here. Very, very weak on this haze. Is he able to keep juking this one? He's doing a good job with the movement there. Able to get into the cloak, and it is going to survive. So, you know, good effort there to get out.
Abrahams, at this point, they still have one more fight. They can fight relatively evenly, but they're now, Dan, kind of in the situation where ideally it starts with an ambush or a bad positioning out of BE. The ideal for them would just be something like opening with a Nox Nostra on the Obikim. Like, if they could manufacture a pick here where Obikim goes down first and it's not a high-value dome, that's probably the ideal for Abrahams, but it's a lot easier said than done.
This Geist, I gotta steal this Geist build from Zergy. He's shooting real fast to that revolver.
Also,
yeah, oh, I insist. You go ahead.
You talk about economy allocation. It's the classic Bebop is much more support at this point. Saint exists purely to grab hooks and be a mild deterrent with Hyper Beam at a whopping 15k 23 minutes in. Essentially, Bebop's been built with spare parts, and oh, the final snipe from Hoot right at the corner. Tass not able to pull the Great Escape this time. Together trying to punish with the Shadow Transformation, but might not be ripe with how B is collapsing here, Dan.
Yes, and oh no, the mid boss comes up as well behind this, and there's already a pick in the way of Buffenjoy's favor, so you've got to, I mean, you've got to know they're going to fall back onto this mid boss. That means Abrahams probably need to keep the pressure up. They need to try to prevent this from happening, but I don't know that they even can here, CP. Buffenjoyers are going to threaten it. They're going to at least bait this. as the mid boss will soon scream. There it is.
You used the right word there. It's bait. But Abrahams, you have to take it seriously. You have to be in the area just in case. The dome comes on down. Abrahams trying to do anything, but once more together, dies in the cold. Jam side caught out, gifts a 1K bag. And with 3 down for Abrahams, the way is clear for mid-boss. Well, okay, a little bit more delay. This time the Bebop beam through the tunnel, but Saint surely has signed his death warrant here, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. He's going to absolutely get destroyed there, falling all the way back. Actually, seemed to have survived. Seemed like they would have mercy on Saint. Just want to finish off this mid-boss and get the rejuice. I don't blame them. In the meantime, Tass will get found by Zergy. So at this point, it feels like, you know, I mean, Zergy is just so far ahead. That seems to be an unanswered problem for Abrahams.
That was Zergy soloing. Tass, by the way. That just turned into the Geist versus Hayes battle, and I don't really know how Tass got stuck in that fight, where realistically you should have seen Zergy walking around 36k with like raid boss music going on, because there's no universe where you win that fight. Just none.
Well, Earn is a pretty free objective, it would seem. Of course, it's going to be in enemy territory, and it should force a fight, but it's the kind of fight that you love to see if you are Buff Enjoyers right now. They're so far ahead. 37k. That is insane. That means that, I don't know what can possibly threaten Zergy at this point, because there's not the lockdown, ZP. You know, we have a lineup for Abrahams where they don't have that type of utility on board. They opted to get all of these playmakers and damage carries, and so they don't have any natural lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, the win conditions have gotten so ridiculously narrow now for Abrahams that it's just, you have to look for a mistake, and instead Tass gets bopped here at the start. And BE just gets a walk on forward. Still 2 rejuves left. Hoot going wild with the assassinates, where Vindicta could just go and clean up the damage done by others at this point. And, you know, 3 down, this is going to be massive amounts of damage to the remaining structures that Abrahams actually has left.
Yeah, not too much here to defend with for Abrahams. A couple rejuves on deck. We got a Hyper Beam. Pretty satisfying hearing the sounds though. So I've been connecting with everything. It's pleasurable.
Saint's just like, I'm useful with Hyper Beam. My usefulness is ended unless I land a hook. Although at this point, even if Saint lands a hook, it probably just leads to Saint dying. With 3 down, now 4 down. And Saint himself being at 19k, with some of your hook targets being as high as 43k. It's tough times, and okay, you get the hook on the Hoot, maybe an uppercut, over and in. A little bit of punish here on the Hoot. Gets the rejuve charge out, so Saint makes a county, get Hoot down one more time. Well, no, because you got a Frozen Shelter coming on in, and Shiv likes these fights.
There we go. Yeah, Shiv absolutely loves it. He is loving it. Oh my goodness, that's rather large. 1539.
KB might have gone a little bit deep. Found him wise here. They end up losing 2 as a result. Zergy a little bit low. No swap this time around. Jamside trying to make something happen out of nothing, but HP just a little bit too low. Drops another big bag at the end, and a little bit of life from Abrahams, but still working against near impossible odds. Charge in from Listic. And with 5 down, the patron will fall in turn. Buff Enjoyers, Dan, looking strong once more. Another 2-0 as they maintain Kings of Europe status against Abrahams.
They certainly do. What a result there. Buff Enjoyers looked absolutely sick.
A fantastic matchup once again. A 2-0 as the chat called, and a big shout out to Gentle Breeze, who said it's all over. Saw that at the 18-minute mark. Buff Enjoyers a clean 2-0. The best team in Europe. Are they the best team in the world, ZP?
I'd say yes. I think even though NA looks impressive at times, NA is not quite as impressive as EU is on a consistent basis. And if BE is the best team in EU, they are the best team in the world, so far as I can say here at the moment. And I gotta say, realistically, if I feel bad for anyone in this last match, it's gotta be Together, who wasn't really able to play the video game because of Frozen Shelter anytime Together went into dive.
Big shout out to Zergy teaching the chat a new Lady Geist build. DDK, you mentioned you want to play her after watching this. Zergy's been that guy to kind of just lay down consistent damage. What did you see from Lady Geist in particular? Actually, you know what? As we take a look at the highlights, walk me through the big moments of the game, Dan.
Well, this game started out looking really good. You can see the Mina performance there in the mid lane was pretty sublime. And in fact, 2 lanes. I think CP went into this saying there's 2 losing lanes for Abrahams, but Abrahams ended up kind of winning 2 lanes in the early game. So it kind of started out pretty good. And that was a big part of the win condition for Abrahams, as unlikely as it was. But then pretty quickly, it became an issue that I think around the objective fights and also on the invades too, because these are the 2 moments where Abrahams are able to maybe try to just get some picks and try to get some presence on the map and try to, just create somewhat of an advantage on the souls is picks, but they were not able to ever successfully achieve that. If they did get a hook like that, there would be delay and the rest of Buff and Joys would turn up and be able to defend, and then Buff and Joys would come out slightly ahead. And then the same was true for the objectives around the urns. And so that was the really big issue, I think, that was repeated. And it's all because of that frozen shelter.
ZP, a lot of people are asking, Shiv Kelvin, is it really that big of a deal? It's really just kind of Kelvin at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, Shiv gets better because Kelvin is his best friend as far as gameplay mechanics merging together, but the reality is that you don't have to deal with that raid boss of a Shiv if you don't give up the Kelvin. You gave up the Kelvin, and Abrahams looked better in this match than I think most people have expected because they actually did well in the laning phase. The problem with the heroes they gave up, particularly the Shiv Kelvin, is that they're not just good in laning phase. Like, yeah, they'll usually win laning phase, but even if they don't win laning phase, what you get in team fights is really, really strong. And Abrahams, their main frontliner, and Together, anytime Together tried to fulfill the function of being a frontliner, they got stuck in a dome and then isolated in often 1v3 style situations. So Abrahams had it really difficult to actually make any sort of meaningful space. Meanwhile, between Listic, Zergy, and the Kelvin Shiv, Buff and Joyers was able to take whatever space they wanted, and it was probably best shown when it's very early into the game. They decide, yeah, we're just going to invade your double vault. We don't really care. What are you going to do to us? And the answer was not much.
$20,000 being paid out by the night shift, and we got another $1,000 in the bank for Buff and Joyers. A clean 2-0, 32 kills to just 12. DDK, what'd you learn tonight that you want to implement into your own game?
Well, I mean, one thing we saw there again is the power of Warpstone. We saw again Buff and Joyers getting 4 Warpstones out of 6 of their players, only 1 Warpstone on the other team. So this is another new trend I think that we're starting to see emerge. ZP was mentioning how good Warpstone is earlier, and I totally agree. So, and also I think the Geist build, the Geist performance as like a just hyper carry was also really scary to see Geist be that focused, because in the first map we were looking at it, and ZP was saying this as well. The kind of only thing you got going for yourself is kind of the Geist. It turns out the Geist was enough. It was hitting pretty hard.
Geist in Zergy's hand seems to be the way to go. Buff and Joyers, the top team in EU, arguably the best team in the world, and they just showed you why. If you missed their builds, you can rewind over on youtube.com/@DeadlockNightShift. We also got a ton of interviews and ton more fun over there. Much love, everybody. If you guys have enjoyed the show and you got a Prime, go ahead and put that to use. If you guys are here for NA, you're in the right place. That matchup is just around the corner. But first, we got to crown some MVPs. Let's get to it. ZP, who did you choose?
For me, it's a difficult one, but I wanted to choose Hoot just because Hoot did so much mental damage on the Doorman that, guess what? They gave up Kelvin in the next game because they didn't want to play against Hoot's Doorman so much that they said, give us the Kelvin. You didn't want the Kelvin in the end, but Hoot did so well on the Doorman and also had a really good game on Vindicta that it's got to be Hoot, even though I think you could also make a very strong case for Zergy.
The Doorman build, I think a lot of people got excited to see the Gunman out and working. You saw him with the Vindicta with one of the first picks on Mina. That kind of set the tone as Hoot is going to take our highlights. Let's go ahead and walk through some of the big ones from game 1. DDK, what did they miss if they just joined the stream?
Well, the first map was probably the best map we've had in a while. It's definitely the highlight of today, I think, the first map of this series, because you saw a really close game where Abraham's, we all felt like they came out better on the draft. But when push came to shove, Buff Enjoyers were able to not just barely hang on throughout the early game and the mid game, and just like keeping it just very close, very low kill game, lots of really, really daring escapes, just barely surviving on these very narrow escapes. They managed to just pick the perfect timing to go for a mid boss in a very questionable timing, as Buff Enjoyers often are able to do, in a way that was not responded to. And then it wasn't even that mid boss that they were able to come back into the game with. It took the next mid boss, where they've timed a really solid fight, to then be able to actually win the next mid boss and actually start capitalizing on the advantage that they gained. So they really worked hard from the behind position in that first map in a way that was super fun, and it was with Doorman and Paige in some super cool like setups. So I mean, that was super fun to see.
I wanted to hate on Paige, but she just keeps winning. Great stuff from the Doorman as we crown Hoot our MVP from Europe, and we're going to see a lot more clips coming your way in just a bit. NA is about to kick off. ZP, though, final thoughts on EU. Buff Enjoyers, they are the top, what they would do, 7 wins out of the first 10 here for EU?
Yeah, I mean, BE is looking stronger than ever. It's worth noting that Abrahams, especially in the early mid-game, continues to have the ability to challenge them and play them closer than any other team. But when it comes to the second game, everyone, there is a lesson to be learned here. Do not give up Kelvin. If you let the other team play Kelvin, they are playing a very different game than you are, and you are probably going to lose. And game 2 was a warning to everyone, because clearly, at some level, Abrahams forgot that.
All right, normally we have an interview. We'll see if we can get a player here from Buff Enjoyers to be joining us. Otherwise, we'll grab him on the other side of the break. DDK, we're about to see NA. We got the Unks taking the stage, and we're going to see a whole lot more new faces from North America in our trolley tournament, which is coming up this weekend. For anyone who hasn't heard, how can you win a piece of $10,000?
Well, you just got to sign up, innit?
It's pretty easy. Just got to find some friends. Get the whole team signed up over on our challenge.
We found the problem.
And we got you did?
Yeah, it's the friends part, isn't it?
Oh, shit. Find some strangers in our Discord. We have friends waiting for you. LeagueTrolley.challenge.com. $20,000 up for grabs. North America is kicking off this weekend, the 17th through the 19th. That's matches on Friday, so get your team signed up tonight. And, of course, Europe. That's a portion of the show you just watched is kicking off next week. ZP, a lot of people going to TwitchCon. Some of the big streamers are out of the mix, so this is your chance to kind of sign up and score a piece of the prize pool, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is your opportunity to go in and get in there where, unlike Night Shift, where it is winner take all, prizes are going to the top 4 on the trolley tournament. So all you got to do is get 4th place and you are in the money. A lot of stiff competition, but definitely more opportunity than the norm.
All right, Listic will be joining the show, so I'm hopping over into our YouTube chat. I'm pulling up twitch.tv/Deadlock Night Shift. If you got a question for Listic, hit it with us. Hit us with it right now. Listic's joining the show, I'm told. Listic, how we doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. Doing good.
Congratulations on another win. Whenever I asked who's going to play this character, they say, well, Listic can do it. We saw you on the Abrams, one of your classics. Did you enjoy it tonight? Was it too easy? Walk me through these matchups.
I'm bored of playing Abrams, man. I just wanted to play the Gray Man for once, and they always just take it away from me. So, yeah.
ZP, go ahead.
Yeah, so you've been playing a lot of Victor, Listic, and clearly we looked at EU in the draft, and Victor was just seen as number 1. Let me ask you this. So clearly Kelvin is still higher on the ban priority, but why is Victor right now just so good after the buffs, nerfs, buff cycle continued, where it seems like he's come out ahead?
The problem with that character is that he's actually just too survivable for how pro play is played. It's like we play for picks constantly, right? But if there's this character that can literally just ignore IDF, then it's pretty disgusting, the things that you can do, the things that you can limit test on that character compared to others. So I think when they're picking it, it's more of a deny pick against us because they know how well we do with it in scrims. But yeah, in general, it's just overstated. E-shift needs nerfs. Yeah.
Yeah, that first map that you guys played. It kind of looked like you came, like from our perspective, we're like, oh, it looked like you guys are coming away maybe a bit behind on the draft. You guys were struggling. You got that eventually kind of, well, you weren't struggling necessarily, but it was a very tight game, and we were feeling like the longer this game goes on, the longer you guys are behind, the better their hero is going to scale into the late game. But you managed to find like a mid boss at the perfect timing, and then you converted on another mid boss and a team fight, and that was kind of the game. How was that for you in terms of the decision making, and just did you ever feel like you were super far behind, or did you feel pretty confident you could get back into that?
It was around the second turn, I think, that game. They picked it up and it was on our side. I think if they like stalled the turn a little bit, then it would have been probably a much worse situation for us. But ever since that, I think, since that happened, I think we're like perfectly fine that game.
Let's take over the bottom. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just got to ask Listic, this is my last question, but how much mental damage did Hoot do to Abrahams to make them ban Doorman over Kelvin? Because as good as Hoot is on Doorman, that seems kind of ridiculous. I mean, yeah. I mean, what was your reaction when you saw they banned Doorman over Kelvin?
This team has been doing this for like a couple of weeks now. No, a couple of weeks. Like, there's been like some cheesy stuff that they take out of scrims and then bring into the tournament. And you know, it's smart. It's smart, of course, because we've shown that we can like pretty comfortably beat them if we're like drafting the way we normally would be. But yeah, the Doorman ban was just like a perfect example of that. It's just nothing we've ever practiced before. So I think they're
trying to catch you off guard.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the desperation strats at this point because you've been whooping up on them. But eventually they're going to get their lick back in. Who is going to be the toughest player, though? This is AshPop45 saying, ask Listic which teammate you would say is the most mechanically skilled. Who on your team gives people the hardest time?
Jesus, that's putting me on the spot. I guess
this is AshPop45. It's not me, by the way.
I think Hoot probably has the best grasp of mechanics, movement, all of the above. He has like the best general, like, you know, mechanical grasp of the game at the moment.
Sketchy JJ and 6 other people want to know, are you and Zergy expecting a child soon?
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations on that future child, the future gamer that will take over the world. In the meantime, you guys are favorites to win our trolley tournament, which is coming up next weekend. Can you give me the bottom 3 characters in the game right now? Who do you not suggest trying to run into a tournament? Because the open bracket kicks off on next Friday.
Steven, Warden, third one's hard. In no particular order either. 7, Warden, and probably Drifter.
Drifter. All right. Keep those out of your lineups, and you have a chance this weekend. Listic, final thoughts tonight. What makes Buff Enjoyers the best team on the planet?
I don't know.
Is it buying Warpstone?
Let us know. We haven't been able to identify it either.
Buying Warpstone, yeah. We'll do that one.
The Warpstone is number 1 right now. Congrats, 4 of you putting it to use in both games, both dubs, and another $1,000 in your pocket. That's Listic. We got to go to a break. When we come back, the party continues with North America. We got DDK and ZP subbing out for even more beautiful human beings. Stay tuned to find out who.